Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alexis for anybody who doesn't know. Welcome if you're new, or welcome back if you have been here before. If you have been here before, hi, and thank you for watching. I am the author of A Journey into Truth, Unveiling Life's Secrets for Truth Seekers, and this book talks all about the last 6 years of my life, the adventures I've been on, like going into the jungle, doing ayahuasca, and also just the many different spiritual teachers I've learned from. And I also share a lot of my awarenesses and life philosophies that I have gained along my journey. So if you're interested in learning more about that book, you can visit my website at www.vibrate2create.com, or you can find me on Instagram at Vibrate2Create. Here on Vibrate to Create, I talk about all things spiritual and metaphysical. I talk about life philosophies. I share vlogs about my journey. I also share some of my life philosophies and the insights I've gained along my journey of my life. So if you're interested in that kind of content, then click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified of when I post new videos so you never miss a video. If you're already subscribed, thank you. Hi. So today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about grief and about losing people and about like just the impermanence of life and the transience of life. So I actually just filmed a video about wabi-sabi and kintsugi, and I also felt very inspired to talk about death and about people that we lose, and also about dealing with, some of that grief that can come up. So I guess I'll share some of my stories of my experiences, and then maybe you can relate in your own experience of something in your life. I've been having some consultations with people one-on-one, and kind of a theme that comes up is grief and death, and also in family constellations it comes up a lot too. And so I kind of wanted to just dive into this topic a little bit, just to maybe help other people who are grieving the loss of somebody, because it's a very tough situation to be in and tough to move through those emotions. So I want to share a little piece of my book here with you again today, and this is from the 3rd chapter as well. So I talked about it in my last video about wabi-sabi and kintsugi, and today I want to talk about this little subheading called The Mesmerizing Rose. So first I'm going to read it, I'm going to tell you the story and the backstory, and then I'll go into these ideas. So I like to first give a story and then kind of dive into more of it, because I think some people can receive something better when it comes as a story as opposed to just, telling you a bunch of things. It'll hit in a different way, I guess. So let's kind of dive into it. Okay, so this is called The Mesmerizing Rose, from chapter 3 of Everything Happens For You. The crystal shop I worked at was a small booth in an outdoor mall. Right next to the booth, big red roses would grow each spring. During the spring I spent working there, one rose outgrew them all. This rose was prepared to grow massively tall from the moment that it sprouted. It was about as tall as me, or even a bit taller. Many people that walked past our booth would stop to have a look at this gigantic rose. Parents would pick up their children to smell it and to marvel at its uniqueness. Men and women would tilt it towards themselves, look at me, and say things like, "I've never seen a rose like that, how beautiful." I was so grateful to be working at that booth during that time. I got to be a part of this rose's life cycle and watch as people gawked over its loveliness. This rose taught me much about life. It prepared for a lovely existence by first making sure its stem was thick enough to reach as close to the heavens as possible. It evolved gradually in its right timing until its full bloom. Then it lived in its fullest manifestation, allowed others to be captivated by its beauty, and moved on when the timing was right, to let other roses have their time. I was able to be a witness to its beginning, its growing process, its bloom, the people it encountered, and eventually its end. The memory it has given to me and those who got to encounter it lives on eternally. Now, it will live on forever in this book and in your mind and in all of your viewers' minds. So that, even just reading that, I feel so moved, and just, I love that story because it really reminds me of life, and it really reminds me of really savoring the process, savoring the growth, and savoring the full bloom, and still finding some solace or acceptance in knowing that I lived my life to its fullest. And I think I've heard someone say before that many times when people get to their old age, one of the biggest things is that they might feel some kind of regret because they didn't do what they really wanted to do in life, or they didn't say something to somebody that they really wanted to say. And that's kind of the thing that they regret the most, is not living their life fully and allowing themselves to fully bloom into what they could have been. And so for me, I really just I needed to hear that today too. Just thinking about savoring each moment and savoring the process of becoming who we become. And when I look back at who I was when I was a teenager, it's like crazy the differences. And I can't imagine, what I could be like in 10 years, or what kind of things I would be thinking that I'm not thinking now. Because we're all completely eternally evolving and completely eternally changing. Not even just our physical body, but emotionally we're changing and growing. I have to change my battery. I'll be right back. Losing somebody is such a tough thing to go through, because it's like so I had a cat and her name was Sally, and I've talked about her in a different video, I can't remember which one, but she was eaten by coyotes, and someone was on their walk and they found her collar, and so they messaged the phone number that was on her collar and said, "I'm so sorry to tell you, but I think your cat is not alive anymore, and I have her collar here, it's pretty beat up." And they were being very gentle about how they told it. And I remember I couldn't even answer that phone call. I gave the number to my mom so my mom could kind of talk about it to the person. And I remember I had to go to school that day. It was college. And I remember, I'm gonna start crying right now. I remember I got in my car and I just knew it. At a soul level, I just knew she's gone. And I don't know how I made it to class, but I got to class and I was late, and my teacher made a comment. He said something you could tell he was annoyed that I was late to class, and he said something do this, blah blah blah. And then I sat down, and just that thing that he said made me just start crying my eyes out. And I was doing it very quietly because I was not wanting to make a big scene in the class, but I just started crying in class. And he was so kind about it that he didn't want to make it a scene. I feel like he knew I didn't want people to make a scene out of it. And so there was a whiteboard on this side and a whiteboard on this side, and normally he would teach from this angle, but in order to protect my, dignity, or just to protect me, he decided to, teach from this side of the class that day. So he was teaching from this side so that everybody was focused on him this way, and kind of my back was to everybody else. And I just cried and cried and cried, and he just let me cry. And he was just really sweet about it, and that was exactly what I needed in that moment. And so I left that class that day, and when I got home, the person who found her collar left her collar on our front doorstep, and she went and bought candies and a card saying she was so sorry for our loss. And I was just in tears, you guys. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. What a blessing that person gave to me. And but just that those tears were so beautiful, to allow it to move, And I cried for days after that. And then eventually, let me dry these up first. Okay, we're back. So eventually the funny thing is, though, it was the day after that, I woke up in the morning and I felt like she's here, my cat, Sally. I felt like she is here, I can feel her here with me. And as I woke up, my other cat was kind of on my chest, kind of like doing that netting pawing thing, and he would never do that, never. My other cat was very much like that, Sally, and I just knew like it was almost like her spirit or her essence was just deciding to come visit me there in that moment. I'm still gonna cry again. I'm telling you right now, like I really felt at a soul level, because right when I woke up I felt like she's here, and then he was there and I was like, oh my gosh. But anyways, let's get back to this grief process. So yeah, so it was quite a process to allow those tears to move and to allow it to myself to really experience it and feel it. And when you really love something, that's how much you know you loved. How big you loved something is how much it hurts when it's gone. And so I went through that process of a lot of pain, a lot of sadness for a little while, and then eventually, you know, time passes and eventually it gets better and it gets a little bit easier, and then you don't see it until much later, the blessing, the collateral beauty that comes from those really hardships moments. And I would watch the last video that I just posted, or that I just made, because I talk about the movie Collateral Beauty. So it took a long time for me to understand the beauty that came from her moving on, because I met my other dog who I love so much, and he's just so perfect in so many ways. And I would have never met him if she had not passed on at the moment that she decided to pass on. And then over time, I started to understand the beauty that came from it. And so I guess that's kind of just the message I want to bring to you guys, is if you're going through a loss or grieving something or in the process of losing something, that there is something really beautiful that comes from, you know, later on in life when you understand that it just wasn't meant for you. Does that make sense? And maybe not that it wasn't meant for you. There is something really beautiful about, maybe that is the thing that I'm trying to say, because sometimes things aren't meant for us and we think something is going to be really good for us. Like we think, oh, I need to be a millionaire, and we think that's going to make me the happiest person in the world, or I really need to be with that person. And sometimes when we loosen that grip of what it has to be or who it has to be, then it opens the doors to so many more opportunities that could be so much more beautiful. And so I guess seeing that sometimes sometimes a loss can lead to something really beautiful, and really allowing ourselves to process those emotions and to let them go, to grieve with other people. You know, when I was doing it was a class in college on death and kind of like religion, spirituality, different kinds of cultures. I loved that class so much. It was like right up my alley. So we talked about how in like tribal cultures, they would have these grieving processes where all the people would come together and they would just like let it all out, and everybody would cry and scream and all together, and that would help to move the grieving process. And they wouldn't feel the grieving afterwards, because they would like be welcoming the other person into the world. But there was that moment where it was needed, where they needed to grieve and they needed to allow it to move so that it didn't stay with them later. And so sometimes it's a really good thing to process and to feel it all, because if you don't feel it, it will just follow you and it'll be pushed down into the subconscious mind and come back up later, and you won't understand, where is this coming from? Why do I feel like this? Because you buried it away and you didn't process it in the time that it actually happened, right? And so family constellations has taught me so much about honoring every single emotion and honoring the pain and the beauty, and honoring the pain and the vulnerability it takes to really dive into that pain, to allow it to move. And it causes much more, like it's like a cleansing, and makes you feel so much lighter once you finally release it and let it go, and it's like, oh, I can breathe. and you feel a little bit better, and you feel like, I'm gonna be okay, you know? And you're gonna be okay. Okay, I think that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got something from it, or maybe it helped you in some way. If it did, and if you think it could help somebody else, then please share it with them. If you're not already subscribed, then please do click the subscribe button. And if you want to be updated about events or books, you can sign up for the newsletter on my website. And again, my book is on places like Amazon, Google, Rakuten Kobo, Apple, Amazon. So if you are wanting to learn more about the book or to read the book, go get yourself one. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys. I feel like I like this color. I was gonna do black background, and then I realized I'm wearing a black shirt and I would just be like a floating head. So we've got the green one back here. It's kind of green, it's more like teal. Maybe I'll do pink next time or something. I kind of like this one though. I like it. But time to go edit. See you guys soon. Bye, guys.